Welcome to the October board meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good job, everybody. Nice and powerful. I know. 1.2 opening and setting agenda for a meeting is the agenda.
Good.
Motion to approve the agenda for this evening. So moved. Thank you. Second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 1.3 audience participation on agenda items. Okay. We're on to number 2, additional appropriation hearing. Turn the floor over to you, Mr. Boyer.
Yeah, good evening, board, community. I continue to see some familiar faces that I haven't seen in a while, and I'm glad you're all here for this exciting public hearing that we're going to lead our board meeting with. So, it's the season. So we have to conduct a hearing for an additional appropriation. I am proposing that we appropriate an additional $1.275 million to our operations fund. The reason being that our expenditures, our operations fund expenditures are projected to finish out the 23 calendar year at about that much over what the Department of Local Government Finance approved for us to have appropriated. And that was due in large just because we underestimated our revenues. So again, in order to make that additional appropriation so that we can cover our operations expenses, we need to have a public hearing. The first order of business is to adopt the proof of publication. So we had to publish a notice to taxpayers that went to the Plymouth Pilot News on September 20th, just indicating that we were considering and proposing this additional appropriation. So the first order of business is to adopt that proof of publication that's in your board packets tonight.
Okay. So motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Second. Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, very good. Second order of business then is to open the public hearing for public testimony. So by state law, we're required to, as I said, hold this public hearing before we're able to appropriate that additional money. If you would like to provide testimony on the additional appropriation that we've requested, you may do so. Please raise your hand, and Board President Shook will call on you if you'd like to provide. Because this is a public hearing, the board is just hearing testimony and won't respond to any comments. Would anybody like to provide testimony? Okay. Seems that everyone who wanted to have the opportunity to provide testimony has the opportunity to do so. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
We've got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The public hearing is closed. Now the third order of business then would be to propose to you for adoption the resolution for the additional appropriation, which is item 2.5 there in your agendas.
Take a motion to approve the resolution 2023-8, additional appropriation for budget year 2023.
So moved.
Thank you. Take a second. Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
No.
2.6.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, the final order of business then is to consider the recurring fund transfer. So by law, we are each year able to transfer up to 15% of our education fund to our operation fund to help offset the operations expenses. And so each year we propose the resolution for the recurring fund transfer that happens every month to you for adoption, which is in there as item 2.6.
Take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any questions for Stephen? Motion carries. Sorry, this part. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. There you go. Sorry, got ahead of myself. Good, Stephen?
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, on to the consent agenda. If there's nothing to blot, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda. So moved. Thank you. Take a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, on to 4.1. The time is now for the report on alternative school, 4.1. Come on up.
It is exciting anytime we have an opportunity to talk to people about Plymouth Achievement Academy. It's something we are very proud of and excited about. So we go to the next slide. So welcome to Plymouth Achievement Academy. Here are some pictures of the kids that we service at Plymouth Achievement Academy. They're the same type of students that you see at PHS. It's just that they're with us because they need something a little bit different to succeed academically. Next slide. The teachers, we have Mrs. Galt. Mrs. Galt works with a morning group of students from Lincoln Junior High. She has an afternoon group from PHS as well. She also spearheads our field trips and our guest speakers that we have at Plymouth Achievement Academy. And we have Mrs. Duran. Mrs. Duran also services high school students in the morning as well as in the afternoon. And I also service both high school students in the morning and the afternoon. So if you were to take me off that slide, we truly would have the dream team. So, go ahead, next slide. Our mission and vision for Plymouth Achievement Academy is that we try to develop the whole student. We try to give them the tools to be successful citizens of our community, while also trying to have them achieve their educational and career goals. That's what our mission and vision is for students who walk through the halls at Plymouth Achievement Academy. And we have some student and parent testimonials we would like to share with you about Plymouth Achievement Academy.
Hello everyone. I started my journey at Lincoln Education Center last year, and it's truly been a good program for me and other students. I've always struggled in regular school, whether that's the environment or the classes within it. And over at the Lincoln Education Center, I am able to focus on one class at a time, and not only does that help me excel faster within those classes, but it also just helps me remember everything about it so much better. I love the way my classes are set up, I really do. If I've taken the class before and I'm recovering the credit for it, I'm able to take a pretest, and that pretest has questions from the entire unit in it. If I do really good on specific questions in that quiz, it'll exempt a lesson in the unit and allow me to continue the things that I can learn in that class compared to everything else that I've already covered. The lessons that we do beforehand usually have 30 to 40 pages of information, small summaries and follow-up questions, and after you complete that lesson, you have a 5-question quiz that will count the points. Once you've completed all the lessons, there will be a post-test, and lastly, a post-test for the entire class, not just for those units. Both my teachers, Mr. Apple and Mr. Rand, are wonderful and very, very helpful and successful at creating an environment that makes me feel safe and comfortable as well as one that motivates me to work much harder.
Hi, my name is Faye Young. I am a student at Plymouth Achievement Academy and have been most of my high school experience. Today I would like to talk to you about how it has helped me and how I have seen it help other students over the years. Plymouth Achievement Academy is a calm, non-crowded learning environment that helps everybody feel included. What I like about Plymouth Achievement Academy is you can come here and work on your schooling at your own pace without being overstimulated. I have seen Plymouth Achievement Academy help kids graduate when they didn't think they would. It has helped me come to school and be excited to learn and graduate. Plymouth Achievement Academy is good for people with social anxiety in general, or people that are falling behind. I have nothing bad to say about Plymouth Achievement Academy, and that has only helped me graduate, and I did not think I would be graduating graduating this year without it.
And I'd also like to introduce Kelly Thompson. And her mom, Amy. Kelly was one of my students last year in 8th grade, and she's with me again for freshman year. And I invited them to come let you know what Plymouth Achievement Academy has meant to them.
Plymouth Achievement Academy has helped me grow so much. In my 7th grade year, I missed over 80 days of school because of my anxiety. And I could not learn at all. I could not focus. Then the next year, when I was already starting to fall behind on the first week of school, they introduced Plymouth Achievement Academy to me. I went there, and on that first day, I felt so much safer. I wasn't getting bullied. I felt welcome in the community, and it made me feel at home. And I was able to learn easily, focus on one class at a time, instead of being overwhelmed by trying to do so much homework at once. I was able to focus on one thing, take it at my own pace, but still have a deadline. And that's why Plymouth Achievement Academy has helped me.
And as her mom, I have to say, I mean, she's a third generation Plymouth High School student. My mother-in-law and my husband all graduated from Plymouth High School. And her two siblings, well, one sibling did. And she's right. I mean, she was in 7th grade. And I mean, it even started in 6th grade, her anxiety and the bullying. And, you know, part of that was probably the pandemic and how that happened. But I was kind of skeptical at first when Mr. Galt said, we want to try her with this program. And I'm like, okay, but Kelly wanted to try it. And I'm like, well, we're going to try anything, because our next step would have been pulling her out of Plymouth and going to one of the smaller schools. And I'm glad we didn't do that now. She's thriving. She wants to go to school. Now we still have days where we have the panic attacks and we can't make it. But when she does that, she keeps up with her work because she can do it at home. And that's part of the deal. When we have the panic attacks in the mornings and she doesn't go that day, once she gets calmed down and rested up from the panic attack, she has to get her assignments done for that day and stay on track. And I have no trouble with her doing that. And it's just really been great. And Mrs. Galt has been wonderful with her, and she has such compassion for these children and understanding of what they're going through. And she knows home life may not be that great, or just, you know, Kelly can't go to pep rallies because just the noise level and all those people sent her into a panic attack. So Mrs. Galt, since she's in Mrs. Galt's afternoon class and it's on her 504, that I can come pick her up early and she doesn't have to attend it. So, and I mean, this year she went out for the color guard, and she's on the color guard team with band. And she wouldn't have done that 2 years ago. So, I mean, it's not even helping with her schoolwork. It's helped building her confidence that she can do the extra stuff at school too. And, you know, sometimes band competitions, by the end of the night, she's overwhelmed again. But she's doing it and she's succeeding at it. And that's what I'm seeing with the Plymouth Achievement Academy. That's what I'm telling my friends who have children that are struggling. I'm like, look into the Plymouth Achievement Academy. It has done so much for Kelly. So, and hopefully they'll check it out because it's been wonderful for her.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm very glad that it's working out for you, Kelly.
Yeah, the fact that you can speak in front of us and that's amazing.
But she's also a dancer and likes to do acting, and which a lot of people with anxiety do, because on stage they can be somebody else.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you very much.
Okay, next slide, please.
Okay. Edmentum, for those of you who are new board members, Edmentum is our learning management system or online classroom. We offer core subjects, but we also like to work with our students one-on-one to help them. Every week we set goals with them. We help them to track them daily. We all have different percent goals, but by the end of the week, kids should average at least 20% progress to get to 100. the progress monitoring is kind of intense with us. We'll show you in a slide, but we use different reports that we can run. Mrs. Gold and Mr. Hoppel and I, we all run different reports and track progress. But we can look down to the minute how long someone's been on an activity, and we use that to kind of like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you clicking through this? And we can monitor what students are actually doing or not doing. So if you want to go to the next slide, we can kind of show you a more detailed view. Okay, so the typewriter, that's kind of like an introduction page. We have a translation tool in over I think it's 22 different languages. You also have the lessons, they read it to you. So it's accommodations for kids that have IEPs or maybe they have an LEP and they're developing their language skills. Kids can also, we print off notes for them, but they're allowed to take their own notes that are guided and follow along with the packet. If you kind of look at the top view, that shows the different progress of kids in a class. That's a review we'll use to see how kids are trending in new classes. Just last week, we checked to see how new math classes were doing, to make sure kids are on pace. And then below that is kind of the teacher view, where we can go in, unlock activities, we can exempt activities. It's kind of like our view. We can also see the timestamp for how long they spend on an activity. And then the bar graph, that's just a progress view of what a typical week may or may not look like for a student. So usually if it's low, it's because maybe it was a half week like blueberry. They come back, we're like, oh, let's set the goal, let's get it going. So that's kind of just some of the ways that we do progress monitoring. Next slide. All right, so the results. Graduation rate, we were at 88% for that. That was pretty huge. Our school is shifting towards the focus of having 90% or better, and we kind of get that 10% that may or may not make it. It's not all kids, but we do have kids that are so far behind on credit that it's a math, I can't even put into words. I had one student, she'll be featured in this picture later. We didn't think she would make it until she made it, and then she got on the graduation rate. She's not just a number, she's a face, a person with a story. But what we do there is the intent one-on-one relationship building, setting the goals, patching them up when they're breaking down, figuring out what it takes to get them to be engaged. Because by the time they come to us in high school, sometimes they're so apathetic and unmotivated, it's kind of scary. But on a positive note, our positive outcomes are how we track if students are now doing well for us. We had 80%. That means, have they obtained all the classes they're supposed to get done with us? We have kids that are sent to us that sometimes need 20 credits. We only have them for 3 hours, maybe for an entire year. We've had to work some miracles. A lot of it is the kid, but it takes a lot to motivate them, track them, get them monitoring, and help them to set their goals. And then lastly, attendance is a huge piece. We do struggle with it, but I think 80% attendance rate is pretty good considering some of these kids don't even want to come to school. And just for the total outcome, our students, specifically at Plymouth Achievement Academy, recovered 418 credits. We had 75 that made student count, they were present for 10 days or more. So, next slide. I'll turn it over to Mrs. Gold.
As Craig mentioned a little earlier, in addition to academics, we also offer a career exploration program and community service. On the career side, we've had guest speakers come out based on what the kids have expressed an interest in after graduation. So we had house construction, we had NIPSCO, fire and rescue, and I believe we had 2 kids actually sign up after graduation to work with fire and rescue. And then community service, we've partnered with Bread of Life Food Pantry, and our kids take field trips out there and we help stock the shelves and whatever they need, and the kids have a really good time. It gives them a little sense of purpose, and it really helps out the community too. I'll turn that over to Craig.
Okay, next slide, please. So we celebrate success. What does that look like? Well, each of us does it a little bit differently, but you see right now on this slide, this is a visual representation, and all of us have in our classrooms. Each basketball up there represents 1 credit that's earned in class. And so we keep those up there from the start to the finish, and then we step back at the very end of the school year, we look and say, my gosh, look what we've done. And it really is a really nice visual representation. Okay, next slide. Certificates. Students in my classroom will receive a certificate of completion for earning that credit. I have one student that's been with me for the second year, and he's received 8 certificates. And he is adamant that he needs to get that certificate from me. So I said, what is about that? He goes, Mom buys a picture frame, and every time I get a certificate, it goes up on the wall. And I've got 8 of them on the wall, and I want the whole space filled. I said, okay, we can do that. So, great story of that. Next slide, please. Here's another classroom and how they celebrate success in their classroom. Anytime a student completes a module or a unit test, they get a Post Malone paper doll that travels on a world tour. You're right, it's Phyllis's class, right?
I'm sure everybody could have guessed.
Yeah. All right, next slide. And once again, here's another classroom that uses leaves for the same purpose of visual representation. But I want you to look at the slide on the picture on the left. That is where we really celebrate student success, is when we have those students we have that wear their cap and gown and go across the stage and graduate successfully. That's where we have the most excitement about student success. Okay, next slide. And then what questions do you have for us about anything?
I don't have any questions. I'm just excited that we're able to do this and provide this opportunity for kids, because some kids need it. So it's good that we can do that.
Well, we appreciate your support from the board as well to have this program available to our kids, and it's a powerful program. Kids do a great job over there, and this is Duran, and this is all outstanding work with our kids. So,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it. Thank you. You're free to run. don't feel bad. Thank you. All right, 4.2, report on PHS mathematics department. They probably won't come back.
I was going to say, we're talking about math, so. Come on. All right, good evening. I'm here tonight with Ryan Rouse, our math department chair, and one of our other math teachers, Curtis Norman. And we're here to just talk about our new vision for math at Plymouth High School. We're specifically looking at our 3 basic math courses, which are Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. As you know, math scores around the state at all levels have not only been low, but are consistently lower than English scores on both SAT and also in iLearn and things like that. The current structure has always been to teach these 3 courses in silos. Students would start with a year of Algebra 1, then a year of geometry, and then a full year of Algebra 2. This standalone approach has been the norm, but it brings up some issues. Instead of students being repeatedly exposed to algebra and geometry every year, they have just been exposed to one. This creates issues when students take the SAT their junior year, because it is a high-level test that requires student proficiency in all 3 of those areas. However, in our current model, it is not uncommon that students taking the SAT their junior year have not done basic algebra concepts since their freshman or sometimes 8th grade year. This can be a major problem when those algebra concepts are some of the biggest parts of the SAT. So over the past year, our math department has taken it upon themselves to rethink the way we structure math, and to do that, they started familiarizing themselves with the SAT. Again, this was something they took on and spent a lot of time doing, which is, to me, credit to them for that. As a department, and it might be more than this, our teachers have taken probably close to 7 old SATs themselves and identified learning targets, skills, and concepts that they are seeing as most prevalent. They've also spent time with EES, diving into the Indiana standards for these 3 courses, and they've also spent time with Westmont High School's math department chair, and that's a school that we went and visited there in year 8 of teaching math in this approach. They don't have Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. It's Math 1, Math 2, Math 3, with kind of that blended approach instead of the silos. Since shifting to this model, Westmont has seen a significant increase in their SAT scores, as well as more students taking and completing higher level AP courses such as Calculus 1, Calculus 2, and Statistics. Using this knowledge, our math teachers have successfully identified essential standards and targets to create a Math 1, Math 2, and Math 3 curriculum. The 3-year rollout process, I know there was a document shared with you where it was outlined more specifically with course codes and things like that. We'll ensure that there's no gaps for students. So next school year, 24-25, Algebra 1 will be replaced with Math 1, and Geometry and Algebra 2 would remain intact. Again, for those students that have already started, we don't want to, again, if they've already taken Algebra 1, they'll finish out with Geometry with Algebra 2. The following year, 25-26, is when Geometry would then be replaced with Math 2. Algebra 2 would still remain intact, and then that 3rd year, we would be at full implementation with that, with Algebra 2 becoming Math 3. The question always comes up about colleges. We reached out to a lot of universities. Purdue's one in particular has pretty stringent math requirements, and really the feedback was the same. Those base level math courses aren't as important as really where kids end up with math. They want to see, are kids taking calculus, are they taking statistics, or any other advanced level courses. Reached out to the secondary math specialist at the IDOE. She was quite thrilled with the idea, and thinks that this really could be a shift that you might start seeing at the state level, because I think it just makes sense. And I know our teachers are really passionate about it as well, and I think it's really going to help our students be more successful with getting those concepts, and especially in a course like math that's intimidating to a lot of kids. But really, the following ways we really think we're going to see a positive impact with this: an increase in our math SAT scores, the number of students taking and completing higher level math courses will increase, and more students will be successful in Math 1 than in Algebra 1 due to moving some of those more difficult concepts that students might struggle with Algebra 1 into year 2 or year 3, which could also lead to more middle school students maybe being able to take and be successful in completing that. And again, that was some of the data that Westmont shared with us. Algebra 1 was one of their most failed math courses, and since going to this, they've seen an increase in kids not only being successful, but also at the middle school level, more kids being able to be successful with that. In closing, we believe this shift in our math curriculum will not only raise SAT scores, but hopefully ignite a passion for math in our students and prepare them for, whether it be college or even careers. These are the SAT testing skills that really kids need to be successful in whatever they do, whether that's enrolling in college or, moving on to a career. So, again, just wanted to kind of let you in on what our vision is for that. And, I brought some of our math teachers here. So if you have any questions for us, we will be happy to answer them.
I have a few questions. Thanks so much for the presentation and just trying to tackle this problem. I'm sure it's just not us, but that you're staying on top of trying to think of a new way to look at this. When I read this study, I think one of the interesting, it was quite an extensive study, the one back in 2013. One of the things that they noted was that one of the things they couldn't account for was not just the change in the curriculum, but perhaps their pedagogical methods that they used also in the change. They were changing to more small group and things like that. Is that something that you're thinking of changing along with the curriculum, so it'd be twofold?
Yeah, I think, with our professional learning communities that we're really, our math team, I think, is in sync as it's ever been. I can let them speak to that, but I think that's part of the conversation. This has been really good work, I think, for them as well, and eye-opening to see, what are those skills being addressed, but also, the purpose of our collaborative teams is, when we're teaching and assessing what is it that went well, what is it that we need to improve on. So I think that's going to naturally come too as we kind of continue our journey in our professional learning community.
And not just thinking of it from a PBL standpoint, that's not the end all be all, but just, some of it is just the delivery, right, of math that can be hard for students, not just the curricular piece. So, the other question I had about with the other school that you had looked at was talked about significant increases in the math scores. what did that exactly mean? Was that a
So,
statistical significant
yeah, so
increase, or?
they were in the high 50% for math SAT, which that doesn't sound great, but if you look at, average, I believe this past year we were 32%, 33%, with that. And I think this year they're hoping that their big numbers, trying to get to that 60 mark, which would really put them significantly, up there with other schools.
Okay. Is there any other research? They were saying that more research needed to occur in this area with this type of integrated curriculum.
There's really not a ton.
That's what they were kind of saying too. There's not a lot
schools doing it, and I think, we're gonna learn stuff along the way as well. Like I said, it's been great having Westmont as a resource. I know their department chair came down on one of our e-learning days and spent the day with our math department. They've been great about sharing things, and, he was the one that suggested the rollout being over a 3-year period to kind of eliminate the gaps. And, I think it's something we'll probably learn things along the way, but, I think we gotta try, I think it just makes sense. I think when we're sitting down and to our teachers, I mean, I'll let you guys speak to that, but, I just think it makes sense the way when we look at this.
Is one of the other outcomes besides just SAT scores increasing, would that also be state assessments?
Yeah, I mean, SATs are a predominant assessment at the high school level, but really I think too, trying to get kids to be more successful in that initial year, in that math 1 year, but also trying to increase our number of kids taking those higher level math courses, I think is also a focus for us too.
And the SAT for the state of Indiana is not considered a state assessment.
Okay.
Because it's required.
It's required start at the junior high.
So when we roll out like math 1, it'll become math 1, yes, for the section of the junior high as well at that school.
And we will align with Riverside as well. Because that's when we start our accelerated math program.
Laura has a question.
Not a question, I'd just like to add a comment as a parent, if I could. So I have 2 high school students, one is a junior, one is a senior. And one of the things that they're doing with the math right now that I very much appreciate as a parent is they did a practice SAT. But now they just don't take it and that's it. They're pulling in the juniors every Tuesday. And so my daughter, who took the test, she had an opportunity to look at the results of it. And she recognized, I missed 8 in a row towards the end. And it's probably because I was getting tired. When I got to that point, they were silly mistakes. So this practice PSAT and these groups, which are smaller groups like you talked about, and some of the strategy, is not only helping her to look at the test and what she missed, but then she got to spend the time with the teacher during the Pilgrim Plus time to go over how to work out that problem. And she came home today and she was excited about it. She recognized what she needed to work on, but more importantly, she knew how to work on it moving forward. And that is really going to be important as we look at raising the bar for our students. Yeah.
I had a couple of comments too. First, I love it. I think it's fantastic, first of all. I do think there is a challenge, and maybe the PLCs will address part of it, but to have curriculum materials to sort of teach a course like this, I think is going to be a particularly unique challenge. I know Exeter High School created their own problem sets, believing that these sort of case study type problems were the best way to teach math, and they had to write their own, essentially, because there's nothing out there on the market to sort of meet the needs they were looking for. So I wonder a little bit about the materials to support a move like this. And I happen to sort of have a little experience as a student teacher. I did an overseas student teaching experience a long time ago in Australia. And they teach math like this in Australia. They call it maths, plural, and they just sort of age them up level by level by level. And I taught maths 7. It was 7th grade math. And we were doing geometry, we were doing algebra, and it was just whatever at a particular skill level. So maybe look internationally as well. There's got to be a ton of research about some of the Australian math curriculum that might be of use.
So if I could comment on that. So we're at the process in all of this right now of all us math teachers. We're meeting tomorrow as kind of our first meeting, which is our content meeting. Start taking Math 1 and looking at our first 3 units. And we split our math teachers up into small teams, and we're starting to put together those units, just what the content looks like. And it is going to be a little bit different, not just in terms of the math content, but also a little bit in terms of pedagogy and how we do some of these things. So that's kind of the stages that we're in right now. And we'll see how it goes. I'm very optimistic. We're very optimistic as a math department that it's going to be very successful. But it will be a little bit different from what we had in the past. So probably a little bit more research. Maybe Plymouth High School will be a #1 case study for all this in the future. Who knows?
Blaze the trail.
Thing that I like about it the most, when we first went up to Westmont to talk about them, we were all pretty skeptical. Like, you don't even teach algebra, geometry, algebra 2. It's like, man, why are we even going up to this place? And we went up there and we talked to the math department chair, and he's like, you know what, really the best thing that you can do for your students is help them get college entrance and a high SAT score that gets them money for college. Like, that's literally one of the best things that you can do. And so they just really attacked the curriculum, and they figured out, what are we teaching this not on the SAT that's kind of fluff that we can just get rid of so that we can really focus on the things that need to be taught so that our students can get higher SAT scores. And I was kind of like, man, I'm a guy that teaches calculus, and I understand the need for that strong foundation all the way through, but at the same time I'm like, he's really right. I mean, the best thing you can do is get them a high SAT score because it means money for them.
So along with that, Jill, I know that I love geometry, and I know you aren't a huge fan of geometry.
Love.
But like, geometry-wise, there's not a lot of geometry topics. Like, we have 13 units in geometry right now. Well, a lot of those topics aren't even essential standards in Indiana. Like, and then on top of that, like, majority of it isn't even on the SAT, which is our state standard test. And so within a lot of our work, unfortunately, there's some geometry that's getting a little bit of the cut or not so much emphasized.
Make sure I visit your
Which
class
hurts
on
me,
those days.
but I know you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I'll come to your class on those days. No more proofs.
That will be something that gets side back quite a bit.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. All right. 4.3, consider PHS proposed course additions 2024-2025.
Well, we got the warm-up pass out of the way. So I've submitted to you guys the courses, but I do want to just kind of run through real quick the title so that we kind of, people know what we're talking about. They're really in a couple areas. So one of the things that we're looking at doing is how can we create pathways that kids can go through at Plymouth High School all the way through without necessarily having to do a shared program, like having to go all the way over to Knox, for example, or not have to take a block of 3 classes during the middle of the day because it sometimes restricts other things they can do. So we need to have some alternate pathways. And the other issue, and it's a good problem, we have no more seats in our shared program classes that our kids can get into. Like, they would have to be on a wait list, and then even then they may not get in. And so we want to create pathways that they can get. So that's some of the classes you're going to see today. Some of the other classes you see today are to expand our dual credit or AP areas. So how can we, again, create more opportunities for students to earn college credit while they're still in high school and save their parents some money? And those are really the areas and pieces that we're looking at talking to you today about adding here. And then one is a class that might be a shared program, but if we have enough demand, maybe we decide, it's our program only. And we're working with that one too. So to kind of go through those, the courses that really are the, how do we finish out pathways? We're adding topics in computer science and computer science itself, as well as computer science capstone. All those are to go with the principles of computer science class that we started this year. Again, it will allow students to get a computer science pathway, which is, high demand area, high demand field. And yes, they'll explore AI. You had a question about when we have that in there. To be in an email earlier this week. And yeah, we're going to let kids get in there and tackle some of that and be on that cutting edge.
The next one, precision agriculture, crop management, precision agriculture, capstone, and agribusiness capstone. Again, these are creating pathways within the ag area, which is obviously, if you look around town and around the community, a huge source of our industry here in town. So, and it's cutting edge, exciting stuff. You know, precision agriculture is kids working with drones and kids working with GPS guided agriculture implements. So how does all of that work and play together? And then when you get into crop management, you're again talking about how are we looking at using the fields and the crops and the nutrients and the pieces that are there. The next one is work-based learning. It is considered a senior year course. The kids who have already done the pathway. And now they don't want to do the capstone, which is learning plus some on-the-job experience. They have more on-the-job experience. So we're looking at trying to connect them with local businesses to do internships and things like that, where they're going to gain some real-world experience in part of their day, and then be able to use that as they go out either to college or into the world of work. Our next group of kind of finishing out a pathway is we have a really strong pathway shared program in culinary arts right now. We have a really strong pathway in early childhood education and education professions. We just didn't have another FACS area pathway that's a complete pathway. So we're adding in principles of fashion and textiles, textiles, apparel, and merchandising, and advanced textiles. To kind of some of those kids who want to go into that fashion world and have that kind of desire to give them an outlet for that as well. Then we're adding 2 AP art classes. As you know, we came last year, we had our first AP art class. We're now following up with AP 2D art and AP 3D art. And again, these are opportunities for students to earn college credits through taking that AP test. And then finally, our last one is principles of entrepreneurship, new venture development, and small business operations. And again, these are to create an entrepreneurship student program so those kids who say, I want to start my own business, maybe even while in high school, I want to start my own business, and give them a good foundation for that. And it can be taught, take one class a year, it can be taught, you take it all 3 classes, 1, 2, 3 in a row, but it doesn't have to be taught or scheduled as a block where you're locked into all 3 at once. So you'll give us a little flexibility. And then if it becomes a shared program, then it will be the block piece. But again, if we have enough enrollment desire from our students to have our own at that point, we can do on that. So we know that Jennifer is very interested in starting this as a shared program, so it's kind of one of those, hey, let's get it on the books, have it there, and see what our demand is, and if it's enough to have our own, we'll have our own, and if not, we'll work with our shared programs, because that's always worked out really well, too. Any questions?
No, but we will recommend the approval of the course additions as presented by Mr. Wilson.
Take a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second?
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Ken. All right, 4.4.
I'm not seeing one.
Mr. Byers.
Here he comes.
Here he comes.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
PCSC emergency plan and report on school safety and security.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening.
So we've done some updates to that plan. I kind of go through the list of what we've accomplished thus far, and we've been able to secure the 2024 Secured School Grant for next year. We were awarded those dollars. We worked at placing our safety plan, our One County, One Protocol safety plan throughout the buildings in prominent areas. Every school corporation in the county has adopted the same safety response protocols. Those have been shared with all of our emergency services throughout Marshall County. So police, fire, and ambulance know what the schools in Marshall County and how they're going to respond to those disasters or emergencies within their buildings. Put together the venue-specific cardiac arrest protocols. Those changed a bit by law. That it now included band directors, choir directors. It always included athletics. And so in writing that, we also found that we needed to do some CPR and AED training of staff. So Beth Mangus was very helpful in accommodating those trainings through Gibson. And through that, we also had to purchase some additional AEDs. We found that we didn't have enough to meet the 3-minute rule, and having an AED
there. So we purchased 2 additional AEDs for athletics, and we also repurposed one from the corporation and placed that over at Lincoln for their athletics. The all hazards plan has been updated and reviewed. We updated our missing student policies, and basically what happened there was those are more of a bullet point policy instead of reading multiple paragraphs to figure out what you're supposed to do when a student goes missing. The schools will now just have simple bullet points that they can quickly follow that, know what they need to do. In the event of a missing student, we define what a missing student is, and then went on with the protocols. I did provide training to Menominee last week during a PD time, and I'll continue to do that throughout the schools and the corporation as the year progresses. The School Corporation Safety Committee, I reconvened that. We met last month over at Lincoln. We have representation from elementary, junior high, high school, and then all of the directors are part of the safety team, and we began reviewing policies. Also, we have on that a parent member from a police department and our fire chief are all members of that committee to give us some insight and guidance. And in addition, met with principals throughout the buildings, doing our safety evaluations, and working hard on making our crosswalks safer at our schools and our campuses. Making certain that we have enough signage that the crosswalks are visible. We've done that over at Webster, which is a problem area. We've added a stop sign, we've added a crosswalk sign in the middle, and we have additional signs on order for some of the other schools to help bring those crosswalks to the view of the drivers and get them to slow down and stop, which I might add has been successful at Webster. Ted Brown and I are working to update radios in our radio systems from analog to digital. That's going to give our buses a better signal out in the outlying areas. We've determined that some of those areas out of the West Township, when you get out farther towards the end of our district, the radios were having some issues. So we've been working on that. We've done some testing and found that switching over to the digital product was much better. That is a bigger project simply because of the price tag. So we're continuing to work on that, but we'll continue down that road. The safety committee is interested in, and we've been talking about rally points and making things a little more organized for building evacuations. And so that's an area that we're doing, and we also implemented an updated tornado preparedness policies that came from an assessment done last year by our architect firm that gave suggestions on the best places to shelter in the buildings. And so we've taken that, provided that to the schools, and they have tested those during their drills. They've updated their policies accordingly. So those have all been put into place. I most recently attended a 2-day reunification training. So in the event that we have to evacuate any of our schools, I've been to that training. We're going to hopefully host a reunification next year. I've had some conversations with the I Love You Guys Foundation about that, but also would like to start doing some tabletop exercises in our buildings throughout the school year. That's kind of a very important topic. And last but not least, school safety specialist training I will be attending in November for 2 days. That is all that I have. Unless you have questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Do you want to show anybody the poster?
Sure. So these are the posters that we put up in the schools. And there's a much smaller 8.5 to 11 version back on the wall. Those are in the classrooms, offices, but these go in the entryways, gymnasiums, that type of thing. It just spells out what our emergency plans are in the corporation.
Thank you, Ward.
Thank you very much, Ward. Appreciate it. All right. 4.5, consider cardinal services memorandum of understanding.
Yes, this is an annual agreement with Cardinal Services. We're asking for you to accept our MOU. Again, this provides additional supports for our students that have been identified as special education that may need more workforce development support as they transition life after high school.
I'll take a motion to approve the MOU.
So, second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, back to you again, Jill. 4.7 enrollment report.
Michigan behavior.
Oh,
4.6.
sorry.
No, sorry.
Jump right over that.
Okay.
4.6, consider Michiana Behavioral Health Care Agreement 2023-2024.
So we have again a partnership with Michiana Behavioral Health. We are the LEA, the service area. This is a Title I-D federal programming of support for students that have been identified as disenfranchised. So Michiana Behavioral Health is a residential mental health hospital that provides services for students across the state, and we provide the educational service. So this is the agreement between Michiana Behavioral Health and Plymouth Community School Corporation. There are no changes from last year to this year, so we're just asking you to accept the 23-24 agreement.
Take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Second. Thank you. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll try 4.7 again.
We'll try this one again. So we had the October 1st or October 2nd, because they're looking at a business work day of turning in our estimated student count. It goes a little bit different as it's not solidified because of the reporting of our management system. So as of today, we have an enrollment of 2,111. We anticipate that number going up slightly after our errors are rectified. Errors are probably based off of our students that are housed currently at Michiana Behavioral Health and some of our outside resources. So once those systems all speak and balance out and rectify, we anticipated that number to be a little bit higher. It is down from last year at this time, which was 3,176. So if we're just doing basic math today, not geometry, that's just 65 students. So again, we will look to see that that difference changes in the next couple of weeks, and we'll give you an update at the next board meeting. The anticipation, I believe, is next Friday that all reporting errors should be corrected. And I'm happy to accept, just to inform.
Thank you. All right, 4.8, consider VSP plan renewal. Mr. Boyer.
Yeah, so VSP, Vision Service Providers, provides our staff our vision insurance, and our current plan is set to expire on December 31st of this year. And so we are proposing a 2-year renewal, and our rates for both our single plans and family plans are actually going down a little bit. So we're excited to enter into this renewal, to extend our vision insurance agreement.
Okay, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Stephen. All right, 4.9, back to you again. Consider adoption of 2024 budget and resolutions.
So the months of August and September, we conducted our budget workshop and our budget hearing. We've advertised our budget as presented and as discussed with you in the months of August and September. And so now we propose it to you this evening for approval. There are quite a few documents within there, including a listing of our debts, our estimated expenditures and revenues, as well as estimated budgets. The resolutions in there for you then to sign allow us to move forward, to submit this to the DLGF, so that we can get certification of our budget to again move forward with our 2024 appropriations.
Do we need to make a motion to approve all those separately? And they'll all be done together.
They can all be done together. Those within there, yes.
Okay. Take a motion to approve all of the things.
So moved.
Second? Second? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, 4.10, consider adoption of 2024 capital project plan.
Yep, so as a part of the budget, the items that are voted on separately, one of them is the capital projects plan. And again, in the month of August and September, we presented this to you. The plan includes not only the capital projects that we have planned for the next 3 years, but also the capital acquisitions. And so again, we propose that to you this evening for approval. you also notice within there, these are operations fund expenditures. And so there's also a resolution to apply our local income tax distributions to our operations fund to help offset the money that we lose in tax caps, which this year we estimate to be about $800,000. So we'll apply our local income tax distributions to our operations fund to help offset those costs. So that resolution is in there as well.
All right, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Second. Thank you. Any questions about that? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Back to you again.
Yep, so next would be the bus replacement plan.
This is your night, man.
Yeah, which is, again, another item that we vote on separately here. So the bus replacement plan is a 5-year plan that shows, our plan to purchase about 2 new buses per year to replace those that are getting into that 12-year life and need to be replaced. So again, as presented in August and September, it's here tonight for you for final approval.
Take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second? Second. Thank you. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4.12, consider adoption of resolution 2023-15, appropriation transfer resolution for 2023.
Now that our 2024 budget is approved, we've got 2 more resolutions. So as we close out the 23 budget, we'll have to make some intra-fund transfers to help offset accounts that maybe were overexpended, and then some that we didn't expend as planned. So again, as we close that out, we'll have to transfer some money around. So this resolution just gives us the authorization to do that as we close out the 2023 budget. And then the next one, after that, we'll vote on these separately, but the next resolution similar to that is for us to be able to look at maybe some of those 23 appropriations within those funds that weren't spent that will carry forward and be a part of our 2024 budget.
Okay. So we'll take a motion to approve 2023-15 first.
Mm-hmm.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll take another motion to approve 2023-16.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second? Second. Thank you. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Anything else, Stephen?
I'm done.
Talk about lunch? All right. 4.14, consider corporation calendar.
Yeah, a committee led by Ryan Welch in conjunction with PEA has created the calendar for the 24-25 school year. I would like to thank Ryan, the PEA, and other staff members who participated in the creation of this calendar. And I recommend the approval of the calendar as presented.
It seems too early. Are you talking about 24?
It'll be here before you know it.
I know. All right. Thank you, Robin. Second.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, 5.1, monthly remarks.
Yeah, we'd like to thank CERT Air Wireless for the donation made to Menominee. It's always nice when we get a donation that they're also very, very helpful to us. I also want to mention that the 2 bargaining teams reached a tentative agreement this past Thursday in our meetings. There are still some hoops to jump through to make the contract official, but I would like to thank the PEA team led by Laura Pryor and Maureen McClellan, and the team of Stephen Boyer, Reed Galt, Beth Mangus, Kyle Kaufman, Joe Van Driesch, and Ellie Shook for taking part in the meetings that led to the agreement. Then also, please let Robin or I know if you plan to attend the region meeting at Swan Lake, which is November the 9th. Registration is at 5:30, with the dinner following at 6 o'clock. And finally, the next regular meeting, right back here, 7 o'clock, is November the 7th. There is the potential that we could have an executive session where we would have a person come in to go over some information for the board in an educational process, just to help understand some financial things. If that is the case, we'll let you know, and it'll be at 6.
Thank you, Mitch.
That's all I have.
Okay, 6.1, audience participation on agenda items. Okay. 7.1, adjournment. I'll take a motion to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.